everybody, welcome to the Julie series. We are talking the high ground. This is This is episode part 2. Um, I don't know what happened. My computer cut me off again. Hey, look, it's just me and my computer. I have no special equipment, no special cameras, nothing. So I don't know why my computer cut off. I have no reason. I can't understand it all. So please, just stick with me. Give me thumbs up, please. I'm so sorry. To merge the two videos, I've researched it and it costs money, and I don't have any money. So please stick with me. Watch the first video and then watch this one. I'm halfway through the episode in my recap. I feel so stupid sometimes. But anyways, so then we see Riker going over the list of names of the citizens who are sympathetic to the cause. And they pass along information on weapons and marching pro-Santa demonstrations. Riker asks how this started, and she says 70 years ago when they denied them independence. This gave them a noble cause. Now it's an excuse for violence. Riker says you hate each other. She said she didn't feel that way in the beginning, but when they started assassinating children, it became a thing. Back with the patients, Dr. Crusher is talking to a kid who is helping. Dr. Crusher says their DNA is warped and is distorting their entire cellular chemistry. You can't do anything, Finn says. I can make them more comfortable, she says, but the damage is too extensive. She says she could possibly treat it if she found the sick patient sooner. He tells her they know the source. It's their transportation device that allows them the dimensional shifting. Dr. Crusher says you can't do that with humanoid tissue. The designers told us that there would be risk, but it works. Dr. Crusher examined Finn's and he is showing the same signs as the other patients. He says it doesn't matter. She says it will if it kills you. He says that you don't know a dead martyr is worth 10 posturing leaders. Back on the Enterprise, Data says the subspace coil with an isolated power source. Geordi says that the Rutan picked up a nuclear vibration when they used it. Wesley says that reminds him of something that he learned in astrophysics. And they go back and forth, and Data's like, oh, the Elway theorem. Interdimensional travel, that it was abandoned in the 23rd century as it proved to be fatal. Wesley says the nuclear vibrations are the same, and the Elway model is similar to the one that they are using. They're showing them. Data says this would be irrational. Picard comes in and says they may be dealing with an irrational people and wants to know if there's any way to trace it. Geordi says with an adaptive subspace echogram. Data says anyone willing to transport in this matter would suffer significant internal damage that could be detected. Picard says it sounds like they would require the services of a doctor. Well, duh. Back on the planet, Riker is observing, and he says this is no way to live for both sides. He says there's got to be a better way to deal with this. She explains that the way that the predecessors would do things and how she has improved things. Riker doesn't understand why she is arresting children. She goes, they're a possible threat. Back with Dr. Crusher, she sees him drawing and says he should be drawing and not killing. He says he can do both, and Dr. Crusher wants to know how can he have such an attitude towards killing. Finn says he takes killing quite seriously. He says she's an idealist, and she says she lives in an ideal culture. We have proven that there is no need for your kind of violence. He says your origins on Earth are from American continent. He says he has read our history books, and says this is a war of independence, and he is no different than General George Washington. Excuse me, how did this distant planet get our history books? Like thousands of years in the future, they've got our history books on another planet, and he's not even on the side that we're trading with. He's on the underground side. How did a guy in the basement get our books? Answer me that one. That's my big pet peeve for the episode. That's about it. And Dr. Crusher said Washington was a military general, not a terrorist. And Finn says the difference between generals and terrorists is the only difference between winners and losers. Then he goes on a rant about all the innocent people that have died via bombs during wars. And she says now that she lives in comfort provided by those wars, She frowns on his immortality. He says he is willing to die for his freedom, and in the finest tradition of your own great civilization, he is willing to kill for it too. Back on the planet, Riker is helping interrogate people. Kirk Kazatur says it's the waiter from the cafe that was dealing with Crusher and Worf in the beginning. He saw both the explosion and the kidnapping, and he denies everything. Riker says he's had enough. He tells him to tell his people that the Federation is willing to negotiate for the release of Dr. Crusher. If your people have terms, we are willing to listen. See, now this is where it should have, they should have done the negotiating, they should have done the meeting like they did in the last episode, where they got the sides together and did this meeting. But no. The guy goes down, and then we back on the Enterprise, and Data is explaining to Picard about the dimensional jump and how to trace the power source. Then Data attempts to have a philosophical discussion with Picard about the anestate behavioral conduct and the behavioral norm, and it would be defined by his program as unnecessary and unacceptable. I always think talking is better. Picard agrees. Data says, so Captain, why are these methods so often unsuccessful? But Data says he has been reviewing the history of armed rebellion, and it appears that terrorism is an effective way to promote political change. Picard said he has never prescribed to it. Data quotes a few examples where it worked. Back on the planet, the guy that was with Riker tells Finn that everyone is being rounded up and the Federation wants to negotiate her release. Now see, he should have taken this opportunity. He should have taken this opportunity to get the sides together to talk. But no! Everybody always thinks they're right? So Finn goes to Crusher. Your Federation colleagues have engineered mass arrests to pressure him into releasing you. Crusher says he's misunderstood the whole situation. Excuse me, didn't Riker just say, Dr. Crusher says all they want is to get me back safely. Finn says he's not releasing her. He goes, I need you here. To find a way to reverse the dimensional shift, I can do that right now. Stop using it. He walks away. I have a life, Finn, and a son that needs me. Finn says he's on the ship, and Dr. Crusher says yes. And Finn says, I'm sorry, they have joined forces with the Rutans against me. They have to die. Crusher says, we are not your enemies. He goes, they are more valuable to me than an enemy. For 70 years, we have shouted, and no one has heard us. Destroy the Federation flagship, and someone will listen. They are the ones who interfered. They are the ones who sent medical supplies. They are the ones who organized mass arrests. They are the ones who are killing your son, not me. Good grief. Could you at least talk? Could you at least talk? Lord. Dr. Crusher says, please don't do this. I will do anything you ask. Finn says he had a son too, and his son died when he was 13 in a bomb thing. So back on the ship, Finn's team beams on board the Enterprise and attempts to destroy it. Geordi gets the device off. A little suspense situation here. Then Finn's crew appears on the bridge and capture Picard. And they take him down, and the captain sees Dr. Crusher. We go back to the Enterprise. Troy reports to Riker that Worf is in sickbay. Riker appears with the leader and asks about the wounded. Troy says 3 dead, 4 wounded. Geordi says another millisecond the Enterprise would have been a dust cloud too. Wesley tells Riker that they can now trace the dimensional transport. Riker reports to Dr. Crusher about Worf and the others. Picard tells Beverly Wesley has been extraordinary and will make a very fine officer one day. He may make a very fine officer one day, but that's not what Wesley becomes. And then they do the old coulda, woulda, shoulda. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have done this. Ugh, old news. Routine, of course. If they had done the woulda, coulda, shoulda, then we wouldn't have had this episode. If she had gone back up in the beginning, this whole episode wouldn't have existed. So they had to have woulda, coulda, shoulda for the plot line to go through, right? Crusher tells him there's no exits to the surface. Picard says so the only way out is the transporter or the dimensional shift. Dr. Crusher says a mode of travel I'd advise you to avoid is killing them. Crusher and Picard get into a little bit of a tiff. Then Finn shows up and Picard gets angry and tells him all the damage he's caused on the ship. Finn tells the captain he's counting on a response from the Federation because he wants the Federation involved. Well, Riker offered them. They could have just sat down at the table. This all could have been avoided if Finn said, have Dr. Crusher contact the Enterprise and tell the Enterprise that they would like to sit down at the table and have a meeting. He could have made it all different. Finn calls the Federation cowards, and the Federation is doing business with the government that is crushing him. Finn says that you are not involved, you are very much involved. Picard says you accuse us of cowardice when you plant bombs in shadows. Then they go back and forth, and Picard says he's added another chair to the negotiator. Finn goes back and forth with the captain again. Then we see Finn on the Enterprise, and he meets Troy. He wants Troy to listen to what he has to say. He tells Troy, your people are safe. How long they stay that way depends on you. We demand an embargo and trade sanctions levied against Ruta. Then the Federation will blockade the planet. No ships will be allowed in and out, and this will continue until Ruta agrees to sit down with Federation. Why didn't he just do this way back when? I mean, screw the embargo and stuff like that. But just do the sit down. I'm sure the Picard and they would have they've done mediations before. Why couldn't they have just sat down at the table? I think both sides are just ready to listen at this point. Back on the bridge, Wesley finds the base in the underground cavern. Riker wants to know if there's any passageways leading to the surface. Data says no. Riker says the light must be artificial. Riker says if we could shut the light down, that would make enough of a disturbance to rescue Dr. Crusher and Picard. Worf wants to join the rescue mission. He owes it to the captain. And they leave for the mission. Finn goes back and forth with Dr. Crusher, and they argue over fear. Finn tells Dr. Crusher he does not want her to fear him. The away team beams down to the cavern. They knock out some people. Crusher goes to Picard. He asks how dangerous to use the dimensional transport is. Picard says if she has gained his confidence. Dr. Crusher wants to tell Picard some stuff when the power goes out. In the rescue, Finn gets killed, and Riker says you did not have to kill him. The ruler says as a prisoner he would have been a focus for violence as his followers tried to free him, and now he's a martyr. It's an imperfect world for an imperfect. It's an imperfect solution for an imperfect world, they say. And they end up on the Enterprise, and Wesley's hugging his mom and having a good hello hug, and I missed you hug, and you're safe hug. And Picard's like, Wesley, you can take us out of orbit at your convenience. So I'm sorry this is 2 videos. I hope you stuck in for the whole thing and watched both videos. I have no idea when my computer cut me off in the previous video. And like I said, it costs money to use all those technologies to merge the 2 videos. So I have to post them as 2 separate videos. So please like and subscribe. I'm doing the best I can here. I'm sorry my equipment is poor. Please stick with me. And please hit the old thumbs up. Thank you.